Which statement best describes how a graph of y equal to x squared plus 5 is related to the parent graph? They ask you to find out if the graph is symmetric to on the y-axis, or if it's symmetric to the x-axis, or to the origin. So basically I need to find out, is this graph symmetric on the y-axis, x-axis, or on the origin? Or maybe it has no symmetry, or infinitely symmetric. In this case, E will not be the answer for our purposes. To check to see if it's symmetric on the x-axis, remember, if it's symmetric on the x-axis, it's going to reflect on the x-axis. So if I give you guys an example, if you have the following graph, this graph is symmetric on the x-axis because if you fold it on the x-axis, that's going to be symmetric on the x-axis. It's going to be the same on both. Now, to see if it's symmetric on the x-axis, we are going to change the y to a negative y. So that'll be, instead of the y, you're going to replace it with a negative y equal to x squared plus 5. And I won't be able to leave the y by itself. So therefore, I'm going to divide by negative 1. So it gives me y equal to negative x squared minus 5. If you end up with the same equation, then that'll be symmetric on the x-axis. In this case, that'll be a no. So I know it's not symmetric to the x-axis, so I can cancel letter C. To determine if it's symmetric on the y-axis, if it's symmetric on the y-axis, this is symmetric on the y-axis because this is the y, and it's basically the same on both. If you fold it, you end up with the same graph. To determine if it's symmetric on that y-axis, I'm going to switch my x to a negative x. Now remember, if you have two x's, then you need to replace them both. In this case, we only have one x. So it'll be y equal to x squared plus 5. But instead of the x, I'm going to replace it with a negative x. And I'm going to simplify. So I have y equal to negative x squared will just give me x squared plus 5. And that one's fine. So that will be a yes, because it's exactly with what we started. So it is symmetric to the y-axis. So A. Now be sure to check to see if it's symmetric to the origin. To determine if it's symmetric to the origin, we need to switch the y and the x. So the y will become a negative y, and the x will become a negative x. And from here I'm going to simplify, so it gives me a negative y. Negative x squared is negative x times negative x, which is x squared plus 5. I'm going to divide by negative 1, y equal to negative x squared minus 5. Is it the same thing that what we started with? No. So therefore your only answer is letter A.